Dose, I got a couple more little things to throw your way, then I'll get you out of here real quick. Are you down or what? Just a little off of the whole lawsuit
I do want to say I want this case to go forward for a bunch of reasons.
Me too.
But,
Me too.
I mean, selfishly, I want the discovery.
Selfishly, I want to just I just don't want it to go through.
Yeah. I want to know what all the contract terms were with Warner Brothers Discovery. I want to know what all the pay-per-view buys really were. I want to know what the salaries are. I want to know what MJF's contract was and when he really signed it. I want to know.
And for any of but for any of these marks who are like, well, why do you care? Because that's these AEW guys, man, they go nuts. Listen, you can't tell me we haven't all got boners over like reading Hulk Hogan's contract when that came out and stuff. You know what I mean? We all have looked through it. That's fascinating to me.
Why is wrestling exempt from the same kind of curiosities that people have in every other fandom? You want to know how much Elon Musk makes versus employees. You want to know how much the new relief pitcher free agent that the Yankees signed.
Robert Downey's made. How much is he to play Dr. Doom? Compared to
Anthony.
Yeah.
Why is wrestling exempt from everything? Are wrestlers the only public figures who enjoy some sort of super privacy? Are wrestling companies the only corporation companies that aren't judged by this that we want every other company to be by? So I think that's just hypocrisy. Then they're just playing favorites.
It is, man. It's insane. And they always say like, oh, people don't care when they're watching sports about the tickets sold and all this shit. It's like, yes, they do, man. And MMA, the biggest MMA analyst, like shout out MMA Guru, for instance, he's roasting the Sphere card, and he's like, I don't know. He's like, dude, he's like talking about ONE FC, and he's like, yo, they darken the crowd. He was saying this yesterday, so they don't have to do actual sellouts. And he's like, we can tell, all that. They talk about all the same things in every sport. Just you pussies don't watch other sports. That's the problem.
How many years, how many seasons did Bengals and Jacksonville fans complain that their games weren't being aired on local networks because of blackout rules, because they weren't selling out?
Man, so it happens everywhere. But earlier in the show, we talked a little bit about All Out, and we have this right here. So this is about the TV deal. Actually, we'll circle back to that. Here is a Brian Alvarez, and this is via Wrestle Talk TV and Wrestling Observer Radio, but Brian Alvarez says an incident between an AEW star and a production team member reportedly saw security sprint backstage. So there was rumors that Guevara got in a fight with Malachi Black. There was rumors that all sorts of memes were popping up. Is CM Punk backstage? All this sort of stuff. People are saying, no, it was the security running back to get geared up for Jungle Boy's entrance, all that. But what had happened was apparently before the match started, a bunch of security dudes just started sprinting backstage. What happened was apparently there was some incident with one of the wrestlers that wasn't on this show. They were shooting something backstage, and this wrestler and a production guy got into a big thing. Why are they shooting backstage at the pay-per-view? Like, shouldn't that be done at like Dynamite? I don't know. I think that's weird, but unless it was like some social media type thing, I just think that's weird. But anyways, why are wrestlers getting into it with production guys? Why are there always fights going down in AEW backstage? Like, Jesus Christ. But some people are saying it was absolutely nothing, but it was big enough that security sprinted backstage. But I was told that whatever it was, they apparently talked it out and everything ended up okay. Well, like, who, man?
Guevara? Isn't always Guevara getting into scuffles?
Well, Ty Mello tweeted out, like, no, my husband didn't get into any scuffle or anything. That's fake news. But either way, there's a wrestler who wasn't on the show who got into it with a production guy shooting a vignette or something. Like, why is this constantly happening?
The best guy is Tony Khan.
I just don't get it, man. It's so silly. Like, dude, split the rosters up, like, for real, or get some people in charge. Like, name people who, okay, on Dynamite's, Jeff Jarrett's in charge of everyone. The buck stops with him, And if he doesn't know, the buck stops with me. Okay, on this show, Danielson's in charge of everyone. On this show, Shivani's in charge of everyone. Boom, or JR or whatever. You just have to do that and then say, okay, I'll do the creative. They're in charge of the shows, though. I work with them for each show, but the buck stops, the town, whatever. And I'm never in favor of putting wrestlers in charge of other wrestlers either. I just think that never works well. And that's what this could be too. Like someone in production, who knows? Was it Chris Daniels? We don't know, man. But goddamn, there's just egos flaring. going on. Watch the rumors will start. It was Ricky Starks or some. You know what I? No, he was at the theaters during All Out or All In or whatever he's tweeting. But yeah, I don't know, man. Just your thoughts. More backstage in AEW.
Yeah, I don't know about it. I mean, honestly, my first reaction when I was reading about it on the Twitters is that it was a work shoot. That they were probably doing an angle that was going to where Shane McMahon was going to come in with, Marina Shafir, Jessamine Duke, and Ronda Rousey, and join, John Moxley as sort of like a takeover kind of thing, and that the security was going in there because it was like the NWO was coming in. Then I heard the same thing that Guevara and Malachi Black got into a scuffle. What a bad choice that would be to pick the guy who's like a shoot like kickboxing.
Yeah, he's like a kickboxer, man.
But I don't know. I don't have enough facts. I mean, it's listen, Ty Mello saying something doesn't convince me one way or another. But I really do want to try not to prejudge things because I have no idea. I don't know if it was a work shoot or not. And if it was a work shoot, I just hope that they had enough other security that maybe were plain clothes or nearby in case it was necessary. But if it was real, yeah, you're absolutely right. But I mean, that's one of the hazards you have of having, a lot of high blood, sort of a freewheeling atmosphere backstage and booking so many people, and maybe not everyone's being used, and maybe they didn't know they were being used and they had to come all the way to Chicago and they're a little frustrated about it, and maybe the reimbursement from AEW isn't as seamless, or maybe you can rely on it but it takes net 30 and you didn't really feel like spending $1,700 to fly to Chicago, rent a car, and stay overnight in a 4-star hotel or a 3-star hotel. I don't know. I have no idea what it is or isn't. I'm sure enough rumors and smoke will come out, and then eventually somebody will get the real story. But if it is sort of more of the same, shame on them for not figuring out a way to clean this up well before now.
Well, speaking of Wrestling Observer Radio, it's time for a very quick Dave Meltzer dumb moment of the week.
Okay.
So Dave Meltzer via Wrestling Observer Radio talks about the TV deal. Again, circling back, we talked about this a little bit earlier, and I know you're like, I'm done talking about it, but we'll just final thoughts as we go into, we're in the end zone apparently for the last month or whatever. So hopefully maybe after this, after this pod, they do announce something. Every time I have you on, I get your last thoughts on basically what you think is going to happen here. Dave Meltzer via Wrestling Observer Radio on AEW's negotiations with other TV networks, saying that they might not have exclusivity with WBD. There are negotiations going on when it comes Tony Khan to outside of WBD. There's stuff that will go on WBD. There's stuff that is being negotiated for outside of WBD. See, I told you. I don't know where the status of those deals are, but it does not look necessarily like an exclusive deal with WBD. And then we have, of course, Ryan Frederick, who, I don't know, people point out as one of the many Shillingtons, but Ryan Frederick says, I don't know when this was. This was yesterday. Yeah. He goes, the deal is already signed. It's just awaiting announcement. And then this guy goes, nobody's doubting AEW signed the deal. And then this Ryan Frederick goes, you literally tweeted for hours ago that because of leadership change, an AEW renewal may not happen. The deal has been signed and done for a few days now. And then Tony Khan goes on record at the press conference, and I didn't play this chunk because I wanted to save it for now. They ask him about if he's got a deal or whatever.
It's true for a very long time, and I believe it. I have not put pen to paper. I'm still working on things. It's an exciting time without getting too specific. That's true for.
And they ask him so he said, I didn't put pen to paper. He could be lying, but they asked him the probability. They're like, Tony, a probability of a deal gets announced in the next month. In the next month, bro. And he goes 90%. So I don't know. I'll just hand it off to you, Dose. What do you make of it all? What do you think of it all? And yeah,
I mean, I don't know either. And so, listen, I'm usually the cynic or the skeptic. So I want to sort of turn off that. I mean, I'll say this one thing: diversity is a good idea. Putting all of your eggs in the WBD basket was always a bad idea. And so if he didn't put pen to paper because there's a third party contract involved, I mean, that's great. I just don't know why that would preclude you from signing with WBD if you're waiting to sign with someone else. So I don't know if it's like a subsidiary, maybe some streaming service they have an interest in. I know they filed for Shockwave, which, the speculation is that's yet another, AEW / Ring of Honor TV show with undoubtedly more titles. I don't know. I mean, at this point, I've said it before, especially more recently, because, everyone takes every tweet you do and they look at that one and only that one and the one that they like the least or the one they like the most. They don't look at everything else. And it's hard, I'm not a certified premium account. I'm limited to the 240 characters, whatever. And although it seems like it, I don't actually live on X. So, there's often hours that go before I do anything, or I have like 5 minutes and I'm not like really fully flushing things out. But negotiations are fluid, and but if WBD wanted to cancel them, they could have canceled them at any time. So the longer it went on, one, their leverage is growing, and two, it shows indication that they don't want to cancel them. And they are the only network that already has 5 primetime hours a week already slotted for AEW programming. I'm sure they could fill it with other things. I don't understand the economics of it. Like, I don't understand why you'd want to buy a 2015 Toyota Corolla, that has engine problems. This is a depreciating asset. I'd rather lease a new car. But anyway, they see a value in it. Maybe I don't understand TV economics. Maybe shows are supposed to lose 100,000 viewers every quarter or whatever. What the hell do I know? I guess apparently. I mean, maybe Twitter is worth $44 billion. Maybe Truth Social is worth $6 billion. Whoops, neither one is. I mean, I don't, overpaying for things is nothing new. And I keep getting reminded from, I don't know these people, but I listen to their podcast. Jonathan Vilas, Rob Long, people who are in show business or sort of in political punditry as well as say, the people in Hollywood are no smarter than you and me, and some of them are a whole lot dumber. So maybe, in fact, WBD is in fact run by idiots. Tell
me. Yeah.
None of us know what it will take to make this company profitable, because all of their books are closed to us. We don't know what their losses were for the past 5 years or gains. The initial investment, we were told $100 million. Do we rely on that? Yes. Do we actually know? No, we don't actually know. It's just that number was bandied about before there were reasons to lie. So, I mean, so anyway, the truth is, I don't know. But yes, I believe that there is a deal. I believe that a deal is probably signed with Warner Bros. Discovery. I assume that whatever this other deal is with this third party, it's part of a cross promotion, and that third party might very well be Max. I mean, these places, they are separate incorporations. They're subsidiaries. Some of them are wholly owned subsidiaries, but they are separate corporations with their own presidents. And by the way, Max International. We all learned about a month and a half ago. Max in France has AEW programming on it. Max in the US doesn't. People just assumed it was going to be populated on the Max anytime now, but no, it wasn't. Max in France is different. The Disney Channel Disney in Indonesia, Malaysia, has WWE. Disney Channel doesn't have WWE here.
Right, yeah.
TNT in Britain was running WWE. They didn't run AEW. So
it's the same with like movies. Yeah, like you go to a certain place, it's distributed by Warner Bros. You come to North America, it's distributed by Universal or whatever. It's
exactly. They're separate companies. The world is a whole lot more complicated than you think, and that's why people like me and people far smarter than me exist in my profession. So. This is a very long way of saying I don't know, but yeah, I think it's done. A lot of people speculate it's going to be announced at the 5-year anniversary. That seems like a pretty good, time to do something like that. That's a sort of a big date. It'll just be interesting to see if there's still over 600,000 viewers by that time. Because remember, way back when, 3 ownership groups ago, back when it was just Warner Brothers, not Warner Brothers Discovery, they were happy with anything over 500,000. Well,
so who said that? Who said that too? Because I bring that up because I remember that was just common knowledge, and then everybody challenges me. They're like, "Well, who said that? Where does that number come from?" Meltzer. There you go. So Meltzer himself said, "Well, they just want 500,000." So if that's what
happens if by January 3rd they're now at 497 and then 467? I mean, this is what I don't understand. I don't understand people. I do understand people wanting 900, 800, 700,000 person show, maybe 6. I just don't understand someone wanting a show where it keeps going down and
that's
the secondary
what I don't
shows
get either. Yeah,
I just don't get that. I don't see the
or like put it on streaming or like your YouTube channel for internet marks because they're watching it. Like if they'll watch it on YouTube, just put AEW on YouTube and have I don't know, like figure out, like I'm not saying it's valueless, but they got to figure out like, okay, if they start running smaller buildings, they start putting better shows together, etc.
Bowling and cornhole and rodeo can be on ESPN3 and ESPN2. There's a value for pro wrestling that can get.
That's what I'm saying, man.
300 to 700,000. Yeah.
If TNA survived like we'll end it on this. If TNA survived like a prehistoric cockroach for as long as it has and made its way to Pop Network and all this, Tony and his billions and the billions he has access to will never see AEW die. It will always exist in some form or fashion unless WWE buys it. That's my prediction, because then that's his dream. That's his fantasy, is to merge it all together.
Or unless enough information becomes public that it hurts his ego so badly that he takes his ball and goes home. That's the one that's why I love the Discovery so much, but whatever.